There are Apple products I've been more excited to receive, but I can't think of any that I've awaited with such impatience. The reason? Curiosity about that audio quality. I wrote last time that it was hub and voice control of HomeKit devices for my partner that really sold it to me, and I wasn't expecting too much from it on the audio front. Sure, it was going to beat out other smart speakers, but I didn't see it as serious competition to proper hi-fi brands. But as the reviews came in, I started to wonder when What Hi-Fi gave it a 5-star review, and The Verge's Nilay Patel, a self-described speaker nerd, said that it sounds incredible. Then it did start to look like Apple might be onto something. But let's start with the design, look and feel. This is clearly a Johnny Ive design. Apple's design head said that his ambition for the iPhone was a single slab of glass, and it's clear that his vision here was similar, a single speaker grille. I have the space gray one, and it has very neutral, almost anonymous looks. Stick a pair of these on a bookshelf and, given the number of cylindrical speakers now available, they'd just blend right in. Especially as the top display panel is blank when the speaker is in standby mode. When playing, you have white/plus symbols to control the volume manually. There's no play/pause symbol, but touching the space between the volume controls still acts as a play/pause button. The blurry Siri pattern appears only when you activate it with the Hey Siri command. Visually, HomePods aren't going to wow anyone, but neither are they going to clash with your decor. I think Apple's decision to make the speaker blend right is a good one, and you can always opt for white if you want something that draws more attention to itself. Personally, I'm very happy with the muted look of the space gray setup. All the reviews said that the AirPods style setup couldn't be simpler. They're right. Bringing your iPhone close to the speaker brings up the prompt to begin, and pairing is confirmed by the iPhone listening to a tone from the HomePod. You then select the room in which the speaker will live, in my case, the office for my first tests, choose Siri's language, and agree to the terms and conditions. Finally, tap to agree to transfer settings from your iPhone, and iCloud, iTunes and Wi-Fi setup is all handled automatically. It's all beautifully simple, and I was playing music about 90 seconds after first powering up the speaker. And once I relocated to the living room, that will be as simple as changing the room in the Home app and waiting 10 seconds for the HomePod to recalibrate to the new room. A definite 10/10ths here. Siri, the setup process ends with prompting you to ask Siri to play some music, which she did immediately. Yeah, my Siri has a female voice and I refer to it as her. Live with it. With my iPhone, iPad and HomePod all in the same room, Hey Siri commands were consistently picked up by the HomePod, which is a default that makes sense to me. My first impressions of Siri on HomePod, having tried maybe 30 or so commands or queries, are extremely positive. Although it's obvious that HomePod uses noise cancellation technology to listen to the music it's playing and then subtract that from microphone input, the experience of quietly issuing a command while the speaker is blasting out music full volume is still incredibly impressive. One thing I'm on the fence about is HomePod lowering the volume of music to respond to HomeKit commands. On the one hand, it's friendly that Siri responds with a verbal confirmation, but given she doesn't have to lower the volume to listen, it would be nice to have a completely uninterrupted music experience when doing something like switching on lights. Call this a feature request for a toggle to choose whether or not you want HomeKit confirmations. However, one thing isn't working out of the box: personal requests. Although I chose to enable this during setup, Siri tells me my personal device, my iPhone, isn't reachable. I'll do some digging into this later. I mentioned last time that I was hoping we'd be able to use HomePod to control HomeKit lights from kind of 2.5 rooms, the living room, the alcove kitchen and the glazed balcony, which is effectively a separate room through an open door. I'll report back next time on how well that works. But with HomePod on my desk, I tried talking to it from inside my office cupboard, and from standing in the hallway, and it heard me perfectly, so I'm optimistic. For my speaker comparisons below, I was stopping and starting the track in iTunes on my Mac. For the Sonos head-to-head, I was doing the same in the Sonos app on my iPhone. With the HomePod, I was simply saying Hey Siri, pause and Hey Siri, resume. After going back and forth between the speakers maybe 60 times in all, doing this manually started to feel really clunky, while simply telling the speaker what I wanted felt very slick. Similarly, I was convinced that using Siri to control the volume on the HomePod was going to feel stupidly clunky. In fact, it didn't. Sure, saying "Hey Siri, increase the volume as many times as required" would be horrible, but once I got used to the volume range, then "Hey Siri, set the volume to 70% when I wanted it loud," and "Hey Siri, set the volume to 30% when I wanted it quieter" actually felt very easy and natural. "Hey Siri, play some music," just as it plays some music it knows or thinks you like, what it calls your personal radio. This included some tracks I didn't know, and "Hey Siri, what's this?" again started to feel like a very obvious way to get the information. When it was playing a track I didn't like, "Hey Siri, skip track" did the job. The next track, I wanted to know who it was and who was in the band, and Siri told me. "Hey Siri, play some acoustic music" pulled up another personalized playlist.